Hey guys, welcome to one of the lost episodes of CMD Tower's Brews and Builds. I'm Mr. Commodore 5 and my fellow host flunked out of the Night's Watch trainee program because he refused to give up his love affair with Queen Marchesa, Big Tuck.
Hi, lords and ladies of the Seven Realms. Fair Mr. Combo, you seem quite ill during your travels. Have you been resting well in the inn?
I actually have been resting well yon dreary nights, but somehow the Scandinavian dogs Vikings keep me up into the wee hours, sipping rum and smoking ganja. The disgusting Wilder people strike down into your lands yet again, and you're very wary from your time tilling the harvest of the year. Absolutely, it was very odd. Instead of stealing our goats and raping our women, they raped our goats and left our women. It's very confusing.
It is quite crazy to hear about these things from beyond the wall. Whoa. Where am? Sorry, I was blacked out there for a minute. I heard there was like an accordion, maybe? Did I make that up?
I felt like this would be a really great plug if I was a Rocky Horror Picture fan. To
do the time warp again?
There we go. That's what I was trying to think. As soon as you were like, oh, where are we? I had to be like, we're doing the time warp again.
You see, it's just a jump to the left and then a step to the right. I can keep going, but I don't want to. But I do want to do this. A little alley-oop.
Ooh. There we go. Well, guys, if you haven't picked up on it, this is one of the lost episodes of Brews and Builds. We thought instead of just giving ourselves the time off, since one of our months we had some recording issues, so we only put out a few episodes relative to that theme, we would use this time to actually put some ones in the bank. Let's do some ones that don't really fit themes. And today is a doozy.
Yeah, this is a fun one.
So here's the thing. I'm not going to ask how Big Tuck is. Big Tuck doesn't give a flip how I feel. Squee McGee is still working for the Russians, but he is here. But we won't hear about breweries or Rock Creek Brewing for that specific example.
But we will know. I will make mention that I am on theme today because I am drinking this delicious dragon's milk.
You just had dragon's milk on Sunday.
Yeah, I know. It inspired me. But now I got a bigger bottle.
Wait, what is Sunday? Where are we? I don't even know what time it is.
Yeah, I don't know what this concept of day is.
Sorry, the Lord's Day. Is that better?
Yeah, thank you. The day to pay fealty.
Thanks for tuning into the episode, guys. And as always, with that Manolith commentary, which may be brief or extensive, I don't know what Squee's going to do. It's Squee McGee.
What's up, Squee? It's 2020 something. I don't know. 2028, 2022. 2018,
2020 BC,
2016.
Who knows?
Maybe you're talking to 2010 Squee. Hey, I'm back here, just out here working. I just graduated school. I'm happy to see you all. Anyways, this is the time continuum. I'm gonna go ahead and
it's 1420.
And it would be funny, though, if we just never missed a beat recording and this episode just stays in the bank forever. And it's like we're eventually done with the channel. And it's like, did we ever launch that episode? I don't think so. Well, if you want to know ways to support the CMD Tower team and all the content we put out, you should head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have 4 different pledge levels, and rewards vary from just getting access into the Discord to getting your own set of CMD Tower playmat and sleeves, because even though this is a time continuum, I know whether it's a year from now or 39 years from now, I will still have playmats and sleeves.
They go beyond the realms of what we consider forwards and backwards in time.
I think you could call them immortal.
They exist in a plane of their own existence.
There you go. If you would actually like to pick out some of our swag, though, without becoming a patron, you can head over to cmdtower.com/merch. We do sell everything on there. The business has been picking up. It's been a little nice. And by that, I mean I fulfilled 2 orders in the last month. So my basement is slowly getting empty.
Mr. Combo? What month?
Month 176 of 22.
Exactly. But hey, if you guys can't contribute financially, just share the content you're watching or listening to or watching on your Hollow video, because every little bit of interaction from the collective does help. And I have no other plugs to get, so let's get down to business. Insert Mulan song. Let's get down to business.
I will make a man out of you.
There we go. So Brews and Builds is our deck series. Since we conquered the path to 32, we have moved on to the endless time continuum that is EDH. So there is no theme. It's just weird.
Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of correlate how decks are constructed similar to how beer is brewed. So we broke it down into 4 different categories. First one's rampant setting your board state. That's grains.
Yes, and grains are the foundation of a beer. They include both base malts and specialty malts, usually in a 60-40 ratio. This helps with the color, the taste, and most importantly, the alcohol content of the beer. Decks always use ways to grow, stabilize, and ramp your bigger threats. And just like a grain profile, they're usually a mix of staples and specialty cards.
And then how does your board interact with all of your opponents? We call that hops.
And hops are the actual plants that give the beer its patented bitterness and herbal floral flavors. They grow in a variety of strands and help distinguish subcategories like IPAs. Our hop choices help clear and interact with the board so your deck can do what it ultimately wants.
And then we have, how does the deck actually win games or accomplish its goal or meme? We call that yeast.
And yeast are living microorganisms that eat the sugar from the grain and poop out alcohol and CO2. It adds alcohol content and the carbonation. Without yeast, to be drinking flat sugar water. Without yeast cards, your deck wouldn't meet the goal of actually winning the game.
And then we have shenanigans. These can be pet cards, synergies, just kind of fun things in the deck that are on theme, but don't have a home anywhere else. We call that spice.
Yes, and not every beer has them, but spices and other additives help separate a normal stock beer from a specialty one. It could be the pepper that turns a stout into jalapeno stout, or the addition of being fermented in bourbon barrels that turns this into a bourbon barrel aged stout. Not every deck has them, but if there is something that makes it pop, this is where we generally talk about it.
And then to seal off the episode, we have a bottle capping, which is going to be Big Tex and I's cuts and adds to the deck that are going to be under $5, under $50, and a no budget recommendation. We just can't talk about mana only lands. So without further ado, let's get brewing. This lost episode is brought to you by King's Landing Travel and Lodging. If you are looking for a getaway to the big city, maybe want to justify you just got a tetanus shot, then King's Landing Travel and Lodging is just the partner for you. We can accommodate all group sizes to coordinate tours of many of the famous sites. Just send a raven towards our home office located in Flea Bottom Lane. So today's deck is, of course, brought to you by King's Landing Travel and Lodging. We always appreciate our sponsors.
The sack of doubloons they gave us last month for this sort of plug just really helped get that microphone sorted out for me.
It absolutely did. And today we are actually talking playing the Game of Thrones, which is led, of course, by Bran the Broken, or AKA King Kenrith. So this is Mr. Combo number 5's Game of Thrones meme deck. Yes, this is the infamous one that I got 100% play tested. So I actually owned the deck with all the alternate arts and alternate art tokens. And the thing I messed up on is getting them foiled because they're basically irreadable, illegible, and everything else in between.
On that point, I was sitting no fewer than 1 meter away from Mr. Combo when he was playing this in his basement, and it might as well just been blank. They might as well just been. They might as well just been flavor text.
Absolutely. And that is the one miss I did do, is I did not do flavor text on the cards. So Big Tuck, why don't you read off Bran the Broken or Kenrith, CMC, what its effects are, and I'll kind of talk about how this came about.
I know they're foiled and they're hard to read.
Well, in this alternate timeline, evidently I went and got LASIK. So
how nice!
I can actually look at these things.
Look at that.
And by LASIK, I mean increase the zoom on my webpage. So Kenrith the Return King is a 5/5.
A couple weeks ago, months ago, or years ago, or decades ago.
Legendary creature. Human noble, that is a mythic. He is 4 colorless and a white, and he has 5 activated abilities. 1 red, all creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. A colorless and a green, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. 2 colorless and a white, the target player gains 5 life. 3 colorless and a blue, target player draws a card. And then finally 4 colorless and a black, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control.
So the reason I ended up settling on this is I've actually wanted to build a Game of Thrones deck for many years. Big Tuck screwed me over the first time because I was going to do Queen Marchesa very naturally. That was going to be Cersei, easy. And then he built it, and I have this big thing. I don't build decks that other people in our playgroup already have. So I sat on it. I got a Kenrith with my buy a box promo. It didn't really interest me to build a deck around it, even though I know he is a very popular and good commander. Yeah. But, finale Game of Thrones happened. I started thinking more about it. And kind of as one of those late night in the tank projects, I decided to, hey, I'm going to start building out the deck list online and trying to correlate it with which characters are what and which guilds would be correlated to houses. Yeah. And let's just start kind of building it from there. And I went on a train one night, did it for 5 hours, got most of the deck built out with the card art that I needed. And so I went ahead to Atomic Ashes community, whether you love them or hate them. That's the person I use for my playtest cards. And sent it over to him, was able to commission a custom deal. He was awesome, was able to get the whole thing done for me, even kind of helped me out on some production issue ones or stuff that didn't turn out quite exactly how we thought it would. And I think Kenrith fits Bran perfectly because A, he's in a damn chair. Kenrith's in a chair.
For starters.
And B, Kenrith doesn't really do anything himself. Like, Kenrith's not getting himself really big and attacking and swinging for command damage. And that's kind of like Bran. I mean, granted, we all wish Bran would have had more to do in the last season of Game of Thrones. But if you think about it, as Bran the Broken or the Three-Eyed Raven or even King Bran, he just sits there. Yeah. But he does manipulate things and kind of move things along to an extent, which is, I think, is kind of what Kenrith does as a card.
Well, and I think it's also really interesting because, there's a lot of different allegories there that you mentioned, but I did read somewhere that Kenrith's dick also doesn't work. So it's really interesting how that all, it's kind of interesting how that all came to pass. But yeah,
what happens if he pays a red? Wouldn't his dick gain trample and haste till end of turn?
I don't know these things, man.
Sounds like
what happens in Westeros. So yeah, I think so. For those who don't know Mr. Combo, but once he gets an idea in his head, he makes it actualized. And the amount of effort that he put into this, A, would make a normal person go insane. B, shows that he clearly has more time on his hand than he claims. But C, C, he gets really excited when he plays this. But finally, it really is kind of incredible how he came across and shows all these cards. I've seen it played a few times. It's definitely a really fun, it's a fun deck, right? It's very kind of like battle cruisery, just because you're playing characters, not like whiz bang spells, which I like. Yeah, exactly. And there was a lot of effort that was put into here. There was a few things where I was like, I don't know, but for the most part, for the vast majority, it really is incredible. And I think from a deck perspective, I think Kenrith kind of works perfectly in this, if you're looking from a mechanics perspective, because the deck is more creature focused, it wins in the red zone, and Kenrith is just kind of one of those toolbox commanders that does a little bit of everything, which I agree makes him kind of bland, but for this kind of meme style deck, it really works, right? It really kind of gives you a lot of value in the command zone.
Well, and something that I had tried to do, now I will say this, I deviated from it with our bottle cappings today, but one of the last things I'll say is I actually picked, in my head, the houses and the colors that they would be. And when I picked the Magic the Gathering characters, I actually tried to match the character to the Game of Thrones character that would have been correlated to those colors. So, House Stark, I have that as Bayou. Yeah, and right. So it's okay, the Starks, I'm trying to have green and or black. Got it. And then what are their other components, or what else are they connected to that I could have those other colors in there?
Yeah, and I think that's totally there. And I was wondering, so spoiler alert, he has talismans in this deck. We only have 8 of them, so I was like, or is it 7? 7.
1, 2, 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Like the 7 great houses of Westeros. So I was looking at that, it's okay, but then I remembered it's oh yeah, it all kind of flows in together. So if we're looking at a few things here, for a joke deck, and I don't know if you did this intentionally or not, the color wheel is pretty dead on. For a 5-color deck that you're only using, you're intentionally keeping three of the color combinations out of it, right?
Yeah, and so the funny thing about that wasn't done on purpose. That happened by accident.
No way, really?
I had built the deck without the talismans at first.
Oh.
I was trying to get as many Game of Thrones characters as possible in the deck. And I noticed that when I did that, my CMC was like a 4/5 or 4/4. Right. And so I had to cut a bunch of stuff out, and I was like, well, what's really cheap? And clearly I need a ramp. So I was like, oh, talismans are 2. Let's just go ahead and do that. And so it just kind of happened stance that 7 great houses had 7 spots or 7 things to cut. So I got pretty lucky there.
Nice. Yeah, and it's down to a 3/8, which is totally respectable for a big battle cruiser. Yep. Like, it's not 5, right? And then lastly, the price because you got to get these in playtest or proxies as they're called. And I think you probably own a fair amount of these cards. But
I own every single card.
Oh, perfect. And it's also just like a meme deck, so who cares, right? You're not taking this to a tournament. It's around $5,000 at the top end of it. So definitely probably going to be difficult to build on a budget. But again, like I said, all joking aside, there was a lot of effort into this, and I think you can really see that once we start talking about the cards in it.
Awesome. Well, let's actually get into the deck and start with the grains. So I will start off with a card that it's one of my very stretch connections when it comes to Game of Thrones, like the card and the character.
Sure.
But this one's great because I do want to live in the red zone. I do want to attack, and it's great getting mana to my mana pool that I can then pool into Bran or Kenrith. So Radha, Heir to Keld, which is actually Gendry Baratheon. So I'll first read off Radha, and I'll kind of explain why I picked this as Gendry, even though it's like the sweatiest connection I can do. So Radha, Heir to Keld is Gruul, so that's just green-red. That's actually one of the big reasons why, because I correlate House Baratheon to Gruul if you're just picking 2 colors. It's a legendary creature, elf warrior, 2/2. Whenever Radha, Heir to Keld attacks, you may add 2 red to your mana pool, and then you can tap it to add a green to your mana pool. Run home, cur. I've already taken your master's head to make me thrash you with it. That was more Jon Snow than Gendry, but
he's kind of got a weird accent. It's like kind of Cockney, but not really. It's kind of it's just like generic British, right? Mm-hmm.
So this is in here. It's always basically you can look at it as kind of like a mana rock. It's a 2-mana mana rock that taps for a green. But then also it is nice because you've seen me play the deck a few times where sometimes I don't really maybe have enough mana to do everything I want. So it's like, oh, well, I can attack with Radha, activate Kenrith. Let's put some +1/+1 counters on Radha to make it where she can't die via blocks. And hey, I just got bigger. I got to use my 2 red because it doesn't carry over into my post-combat main phase. And it's cheap.
I will be talking about this pairing in a little bit here. So I don't have much to say.
What do you not like about it?
I'm not going to say. I will tell you later.
You know what? Go to hell.
I also didn't. When I went through the cutting, I didn't do the house rigmaroles because I couldn't possibly be bothered for that sort of thing. So.
Well, yeah, I didn't even do it, so
okay, easy enough.
And it's my deck.
Nobody could be bothered.
This is one where it's like this is obviously like a pretty 1-for-1 connection, but I think this works a lot. It both adds like a function of the card and kind of what you need in this deck. So I want to talk about Beanstalk Giant, aka the Giants. Oh, yeah. So 2 colorless, or I'm sorry, that's the adventure cost. 6 colorless and a green for a creature giant. His power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, which is pretty beefy boy, right? And you can easily give him trample and plus him with Kenrith, so that alone is enough to win the game. But I like that you can also, for 2 colorless and a green, you can sorcery adventure him out, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle your library. So again, like I think it kind of fits the theme very well, right? How there's a gazillion giants. I think this one's one of the better utility choices, right? So you had a gazillion different things you could have gone with the giants bits, and I think you chose wisely, both in terms of giving you more access to mana and also for like the big beater side of things. And like I think again, working towards I want to have as many characters as I possibly can be represented, you kind of have to make these sort of concessions into a creature like this, and I think this is a pretty good inclusion in that regard.
Thanks. Yeah, and you know what? The Beanstalk Giant, we've been talking color standards for the past few months or years or decades, depending on when you're listening to this. And, I could see Beanstalk Giant becoming one of those standard cards in green. Like, you're going to run a ramp spell anyways. Yeah. Why not have a big dude that you can cast later in the game that literally no one can touch while it's sitting there in exile?
Right, yeah.
And so that's kind of the big thing that I like about it, but also being in a 5-color deck, and I got trying to see, I actually don't run fetches in the deck, which is surprising, but I do have a bunch of other ways to kind of quickly get out lands. And you know what, if I cast this on turn 2 or 3, I'll ignore it till maybe turn 11 or 12 and then cast it
you wisely chose that you had a bunch of you had a fair amount of basics, right? It just worked out that way, so it's not like you're going to fail to find, which is what the argument would be. So yeah, that's why I think it's a good inclusion. I think it's definitely on theme.
All right, for my second card, this is actually one of your commanders that you run. It's one of the ones that you seem to enjoy playing the most. So I want to talk about Selvala Explorer Returned, which is Marjorie Tyrell. I don't know why you're shaking your head at me. You literally got all excited and went to go grab it as I was reading the card.
No, I'm saying it's not mine. It's not mine. It's I don't have it.
Oh, you're just excited. Okay. So Selvala is Marjorie. So Selvala, if you guys aren't familiar, is a colorless Silencia. I don't believe I'd have to double check to see if I made their house Silencia. I don't believe I did, but it's more Selvala's effect that reminds me of Marjorie.
Right, yeah.
Legendary creature Elf Scout. It's a 2/4 and it has Parlay. So you tap it. Each player reveals the top card of his or her library. For each non-land card revealed this way, add a green to your mana pool and you gain 1 life. Then each player draws a card. The lowlands refuse to suffer at the whims of the high city.
Ooh, not bad.
So if you guys aren't familiar with the Game of Thrones and Marjorie kind of came in, was trying to be queen, was dating the homosexual king. He ends up dying. So then she goes to marry Joffrey, who's just like the devil incarnate. And the thing that she tried to do that really annoyed Joffrey is she tried to give gifts and things to the people.
Right.
But the thing is Marjorie, just like everyone else, never did anything nice without wanting something in return.
Right.
So Selvala's like, hey, everyone gets to draw a card, but I'm going to get a little cheddar in my pocket for doing it, which is why it's the perfect correlation.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And like you said, it's to give it even if she didn't get anything monetarily, everything that she was doing was just a facade, right? So this card on its surface is like a group hug card, but you're getting more of the hug than anyone else is because you're getting a card and life and mana. Right. So that was one. That was one when I was going through and just looked through all of them and then slowly went insane. That I thought was dead on board. But some bad news is that in early 2021, I actually ripped this deck apart in my downsizing.
Oh man. And I was wrong. I did make House Tyrell Silencia. So there we go. Okay. I was on theme.
Nice.
So Big Tuck, what's your second Magic character and Game of Thrones partner?
So this is one of my favorite cards that's ever been printed, and I have tried so hard to shoehorn it into so many decks, and I think I finally figured out the one that's going to work for me. But again, this is a casual deck, right? It's the time to kind of explore and do fun things. And I think Varys or Gonti, Lord of Luxury, is a really fun inclusion. So Gonti is he's a 2 colorless, 2 black legendary creature, Aetherborn Rogue. He's a 2/3 with Death Touch, about 40 cents, thanks to the Rogue deck reprint. When he enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, exile one of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom of the library in random order. You may look and cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it's mana of any type to cast that spell. Right? So obviously super fun, and again, in this sort of fun big battlecruisery deck, it's fun to play these sort of cards where we're kind of playing off each other. And I think it does a good characterization of Varys too, because he always at least until the last season, he was always in someone else. He always had his hands in other people's pies, right? And it seemed like he always could kind of jump ship, and he's whatever his title is. let's see if I can find it real quick.
Master of Whispers.
Yeah, there you go. So like it just seems like he's always trying to converse to the Savala connection. He's always playing other people's games to better suit himself.
Sure.
Right? Like he doesn't really have he has his own driving force of survive and try to be on the winning team. But until he figures out what the winning team is, he's always kind of picking around and like looking at the defenses and knowing the knowledge. And I think that's like really well exemplified in Gonti, Lord of Luxury.
I mean, that's a fair assessment. The main reason I picked Gonti for Varys is I imagine like Varys arriving or Gonti entering the battlefield, and then one of his little birds brings him a piece of information. And so that's kind of like the exile for you get a card. It's because like one of the little birds is like, oh, you've arrived.
Here's your thing. Okay.
Yeah. And I was actually very torn because I was thinking about making this Peter Baelish, because this is also the Death Touch piece seems very Peter Baelish-ish, but I actually made him a different card that I think makes a lot more sense, but it is more of a spice card. But yeah, Gonti's great in this deck. I don't think I have many ways of blinking him to like rinse and repeat it, but hey, I'll take a 2/3 Death Touch that I could maybe make bigger, or if he dies, Kenrith will bring it back to the battlefield. We'll rinse and repeat, do it again.
Totally.
All right, my last one is not as fun of one, but I think it's pretty good. So I do have some instants and sorceries in here. Things that I try to do with those is correlate them either to events or sayings in Magic. So Growth Spiral or I Drink and I Know Things is my last one. And actually, this is a card that I think I should play more, but I don't.
Oh, it's incredible, yeah.
So this is blue and green instant. Draw a card. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Cynical and Spiral Patterns are a specialty of Yair Clade, which seeks to revitalize the cycles of nature. And the reason I correlate this to I Drink and I Know Things, I look at drinking as drawing the card, and then it's like putting the land down as like I know things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a drink and I know it.
Well, and you like, and like to your point with instants and sorceries, you really like. You can't be like, oh, like there's the wild children cast fireball one time in the entirety of the series, right? It's very, they call that low fantasy, right? Because it's not like Dungeons and Dragons where there's wizards and dragons and all this other shit.
Sure.
Like it's much more grounded. A la Lord of the Rings is kind of in the same. Those are both like low fantasies. So you can't just be like, it can't be like, you know, the time Cersei drug up plants from the ground out of her own spine, or what, you know what I mean? So it's like, all of these ones are like, they're kind of but in the same regard, they're kind of dealer's choice there, which I'm sure was fun for you to do things in like this, right? Where you can kind of play to the sayings, and like people who are into Game of Thrones will know what that means, right? Because they also see like fat neckbeards wearing that on t-shirts at conventions.
Hey, I got that t-shirt.
I know. But you were not
what's your last grain?
So this one I chose because there's a theme to this deck. Obviously, that's not very subtle, but it's legendary creatures, right? And I'm really kind of digging into that on a couple.
Did you not pick up on the other theme of the deck that's not so subtle?
It's all humans.
Yep.
Or elves or something like that. But speaking of drinking and knowing things, you could have done this as a dwarf, but you did it as an actual playable card, so I can recommend you on that. I'm talking about Kethis the Hidden Hand, a.k.a. Tyrion Lannister. So Abzan, white, black, green. It's a mythic for $2. Mythic. Legendary creature, Elf Advisor. It's a 3/4. Legendary creatures you cast cost 1 less to cast. Exile 2 other legendary creatures from your graveyard until end of turn. Each legendary card in your graveyard gains. You may play this card from your graveyard. Now, let's see if I can think. Okay, it's been a long time, but the pen is mightier than the crown.
I'll give you a 7 out of 10.
That's all. Hey, for my accent work, that's high praise. But in similar scope to how Tyrion not only is facilitating all the things around him, right? He can't really fight very well, but he's smart. He can read between the lines and kind of flies under the radar as much as a Lannister can. that makes sense with the legend, with the one less to cast. And then later, so I also kind of I think that the second ability, from my perspective, makes sense because Tyrion plays the game for a very long time and then realizes that the game is kind of bullshit and starts like throwing other people under the bus, throwing his own family under the bus, and that sort of thing. So for me, I kind of view that second bit as like when he kills, spoilers for Game of Thrones, figure it out. You know, when he kills Shay, when he kills his father, I think that's kind of a big turning point for him where he's like, there's all these people that I respected and I just want them out of my life. And in similar scope, Kenrith kind of has the second ability to do the same thing, right? Where he saw the legendary creatures and then he's getting rid of them to get something that he wants back, like Jon Snow, for example.
I like that. I honestly, the reason I did it is Kenrith kind of looks like a master of coin, and I know that's what Tyrion ends up as. And I was like, oh, all right, that works. And the colors I thought fit because I believe I have Orzhov as House Lannister, I believe. But Tyrion never felt like a true Lannister, which is why I was like, okay, I can get the green in there because he is somewhat loyal to the Starks as well, which the Starks have some green. But yeah, Kenrith is great for this deck because I'm playing almost all legendaries. 3 mana, everything's reduced by 1. I mean, people play the monuments for that very same reason.
And he's my Abzan commander, or was in the alternate timeline. The best timeline, so I'm here for it.
Cool. Well, that's going to wrap up the green build. Now we're going to head over to the hop profile. Big Tuck, what's your first hop card from Game of Thrones?
So we're continuing the legendary train with the Vampire Knight, which I chose because when I pulled up the picture, I literally laughed out loud. So we were talking about Arvard the Cursed, a.k.a. Ramsay Bolton, a.k.a. the picture that you have is him doing his best Tyler Durden impression. Which is a pretty deep one, but here we are. So Avard is a legendary creature vampire knight. He's a uncommon 3 colorless Orzhov, that's black white, a 3/3 death touch lifelink. Other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. Let's see here, he's kind of like nasally, right, where he's like I won't abandon the Weatherlight. My destiny is to serve as Jorah's side. This illness means I must trust my faith and more, and myself less, which is exactly the opposite of what Ramsay Bolton would say. But
yeah,
like I said, 3/3 death touch and lifelink checks out, right? Because he actually is a pretty good combatant. It seems like it seems like he gets his enjoyment and meat out of life from killing and hurting other people, so that works. The legendary creature thing, the +2/+2, I can't get the correlation there, but
so I did that more because I feel like Ramsay was one of those leaders that like. Not from an army perspective, because I don't think he was a great military commander, but like in those raiding parties that he would do, it seemed like his crew was very loyal to him. And it's like, when we're here with you, like we could fucking kill everyone. And so that's kind of what my thought was. Is like, even though he's not like a battalion commander, like small skirmishes, like he'll make everyone perform a little bit better. And then, the death touch lifelink. And I will say this is my biggest stretch. And if there was a better Ramsay card, I would be all about replacing it.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. So, but again, it's a legendary deck. So this is also an auto include anyway, right? So it all works out.
All right. So my next one's actually a new card for my Ikoria. And the magic art would be this character in Game of Thrones if he was able to live past the age of like 15. So we're talking about General Kudro of Dranith or Joffrey Baratheon.
That little bitch.
So that little bitch. So here's how we kind of got to it. General Kudro of Dranith, colorless Orzhov. Like I talked about, I'm pretty sure I made Orzhov for the Lannisters.
Yep.
Legendary creature, human soldier. It's a 3/3. Other humans you control get +1/+1. Joffrey never really rallied his people to do anything, but I do think him having a presence made people like they kind of said when the attack of Blackwater Bay, just be there and they will fight harder for their king.
Right.
And +1/+1 is nothing to, take home to the bank. but it's at least a little bit of a bump. So I kind of was there.
And I think, and just on that point as well, like the fact that he was, I think that goes well too, because that he was the Lannister king, right? So Lannister, like Lannisters were this big family name. So just being in the presence of a Lannister, everyone's like, oh, you know, and if you're with them, you would be more inspired, but you also know that he's a piece of shit. So you're not like, you know, trample, death touch, all that stuff.
So whenever General Kudrov Draneth or another human enters the battlefield under your control, exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. That is the most Joffrey thing ever, just to make things disappear. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to behead you. I'm going to humiliate you. You're going to be gone from this planet. So I liked that. And then the last ability is actually the one that I liked the most. Pay 2 colorless, sack 2 humans, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. That is something that Joffrey does left and right. Sacrifices his own people to get rid of like the smallest threat.
I completely agree. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird because again, like there's some that like the art looks more like it, or you can make that kind of connection, right? And this one is the furthest away from it, but it does all track. I do have a question for you though. Do you have this in paper?
Pretty sure.
Okay, because we might need to be talking, because this is I'm in the market like whoa.
But I got to keep one.
Okay.
Per the rules, you can't just proxy a non-existent card. We know this.
Yeah. See,
it's a $3.
But hey, look.
How many times have you gotten upset by a card that was $3? Think about that.
The card art's perfect, though, because it's literally Joffrey at the Battle of Blackwater Bay wearing his armor at the top of the wall. What is Kudrow doing?
And he clearly
wearing armor at the top of the wall.
He clearly Joffrey also had diabetes, just like General Kudo, aka Wilford Brimley does. So again, that all works out too. Okay, so this was the one that I was like, okay, you win this one, Mr. Combo, because this is good. So you took 3 cards and put it into 1 card. and I was okay, that's fair. So I want to talk about Questing Beast, a mediocre card at best in my opinion, but this is the Sand Snakes, and it worked. This one's good. You got me there. Okay, so
thank you.
Questing Beast is 2 colorless and 2 green. It's a 4 for legendary crease. Legendary creature beast. A crease, legendary crease. Yeah, creature beast. It's a mythic from the trash set Throne of Eldraine that even now in the unspun annals of time that we live in, we still agree is a set. Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste. Questing Beast can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. And whenever Questing Beast deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target player, playing against Walker that player controls.
And you think that's mediocre?
It's like fine. It's okay. But
the $13 card.
Yeah,
that card's a big woof. On the scale of like 1 to woof, that's a woof.
It's okay. But if you look at the 3 Sandstake sisters, they all have very distinct fighting styles, right? Where like one has a whip, one has daggers, and one has a spear, I think, right?
Yep.
So that's cool that you have the 3 covered there. Can't be blocked by creatures power 2 or less. The Sand Snakes would wreck all these small little mooks, but once they got up to someone who's actually strong, like Euron Greyjoy in this case, they were like shit out of luck and just got wrecked by one guy, right? The creatures that combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. They also use poison because they're from Martell.
I like that.
And the last bit, I don't know. It's impossible to correlate that with the Planeswalkers.
Well, you look at it this way: each of the sisters has their own unique abilities. So you'd almost say one has vigilance and can't be blocked by creatures power 2 or less. One has death touch, combat damage can't be prevented, and the other one has haste in that. So you just kind of that's the stretch.
Yeah,
but I'll give you all a timeless suck at Vorthos nerds, please. Thank you.
That the Questing Beast, but like I think still, even with that last ability being the biggest stretch out of them, the rest of them work out enough. That, and like the Sand Snakes aren't big enough characters where you need to have 3 different cards. So that I think that all kind of worked really well together in this one package.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. The last thing I'll say about that, because you literally hit it on the head. Guys, you can go to the Tapped Out page that will be posted, cmdtower.com/BNBL1. You'll actually see at the bottom, it's not the actual, like, cards connected to the art, which actually I think I could do that now. But I actually do, I have House Tyrell, have House Martell. The only reason I ended up doing the Sand Snakes is I was like, okay, obviously I'm going to make Prince Oberyn. Yeah. And then it's like, but who else do I do? I can't just have one guy from House Martell. So it's like, okay, how do I make Ilaria Sand and the Sand Snakes like a somewhat relevant creature? So glad you liked it, though.
No, it's good. It's a good bit.
All right. This one is a stretch. It's a big stretch because doesn't really fit the Game of Thrones character at all, other than the fact that the card's kind of worthless. We're talking about Raf Capashan Shipsmage.
Oh, yeah.
which is also known as Renly Baratheon. So,
I was like, I kind of get it. But
yeah, I mean, think about it. Renly was worthless. This card's kind of worthless, but it does have a function for the deck.
Sure,
so,
yeah. All right.
Two colorless or Azoria, so that's going to be your white and your blue. Legendary creature, human wizard. It's a 3/3 uncommon. It has flash, so you can play it at instant speed. It has flying, and you may cast historic spells as though they had flash. Artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. The only thing I have that kind of stretch makes this fit Renly is next to Daenerys. I think if we went Jon, Daenerys, Renly, that gives you order of like the most respected leaders within their armies. Renly, even though he died super early, I truly believe if his brother hadn't made like a demon baby out of smoke, Renly probably would have beaten him and taken over King's Landing.
Right.
His people loved him. He seemed like a good guy, other than the fact he cheated on his wife.
But like they should have been married in the first place, right? Like it was a sham marriage.
Fair.
And even
so that's kind of how it fits Renly. Yeah. And the colors don't even fit Baratheon, because I never really felt Renly was a real Baratheon, even though, yes, he was born from the same parents as Robert, but he just didn't have that gruel, tough.
He was more of an intellect, creative type comparative to the other ones. Yeah.
Yes.
I will admit, though, this is a bit of a sweaty one in terms of the connection. It's not the worst out there, but it also makes sense because you have so many legendary creatures from a mechanics perspective, right? So.
Yeah. All right, Big Tuck. What's your next hop?
So this is the one I like. I like this for two things. One, because this is my favorite character in the entirety of Game of Thrones. Second, it's the one that is the namesake when I was part of the Direwolves on my jersey. And third off, this is a unplayable card, but it actually works in this. All right. Wait, we're doing.
How about this? Instead of doing a 3-2-1, how about you read off the front of the card, and then I'll read the front name of the card, and I'll read off the back name of the card.
But we're doing the card, not the character, correct?
Yes. Okay. Card, not the character. I'll let you announce the character.
Got it. So I am talking about Erlich of the Krallen Horde.
And the flip side is Ulrich, Uncontested Alpha. Now, which Game of Thrones character is this?
This is the Hound, my boy, Sandor Clegane. He's the best. And for those who have listened to the podcast for a while, you do know that I am still locked in deadly combat with my brother, Garrett. Also, Garrett, you can suck it. Wait, hold on. You can suck it. So, yes, the Hound. So, obviously, we can read through the card real quick because it's not that great. 3 colorless and gruel. That's red and green for 4/4 legendary creature, human werewolf. Not relevant. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, target creature gets +4/+4 until a turn. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform Ulrich of the Krallen Horde.
So Ulrich uncontested, and so Big Tuck also didn't say it. The way that I did the card, Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, the human side is actually Sandor Clegane. And then the flip side, Ulrich Uncontested Alpha, is the Hound. Right. So this is legendary creature werewolf, kind of fits Hound, werewolf. Whenever this creature transforms into Ulrich Uncontested Alpha, you may have it fight target non-werewolf creature you don't control. So loose way to kind of connect that to the Hound, when he transforms, he could basically fight anyone except for quote unquote his brother, the other werewolf. Okay, loose, go with me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here. No,
and he's a 6/6.
I'm here for it.
Big beefy boy. And then it says, at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 more spells last turn, transform Ulrich Uncontested Alpha. So before Tuck gives his thoughts on the front of the card and just the card in general, my whole thing is Sandor... He would have moments in Game of Thrones where he would be Sandor, and then he'd flip a switch and be the Hound.
Yeah, just go on a rampage.
And I wanted a card to kind of resemble both of those, and I didn't want to do a Planeswalker. So you are right, it's unplayable in regular Commander, but I actually think it's good in here because I'm eliminating and doing +4/+4. That's pretty decent.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on all of it, right? Like, flavor win, the duality of him, right? And like, I think a good example of that is when he's building the church, and then the people, and then he's like, all right, well, guess I'm just gonna go on a rampage for the next 2 weeks, just hack these people apart with axes. So yeah, so I think like the naysayers will say there's a better card for the Hound, right? But like, I think this is another one where it's like you're doing a disservice for the deck as a deck, but you're doing it right for the character, right? And that stuff. So the question is, did he actually print this double faced, or did he give you 2?
He did. He gave me 2 initially, and then he finally gave me a double face.
Nice. Wow, the guy knows what he's doing. So yeah, so like I said, the Hound is the best character in Game of Thrones. He's my namesake. He's my boy, and I think you did him justice here.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, the only other character or magic character I could think of that might fit the Hound better is like Ruach Thar, I guess.
Yeah, or like I think
that's like big stretch.
I think like Garruk, some variation in there might work for him. But
I guess there is the flip Planeswalker Garruk, but I don't really consider the Hound or Sandor like a Planeswalker level character.
Yes, right, exactly. Like he's the only reason why he's good at his job is because he's 6'9" and 325 pounds, right? Like it's not he has magic or anything.
All right, well that's going to wrap up the board state and hot profile. Now we're going to head over to the yeast. All right, so for my first yeast, this is a card that I had never heard of. Thank God it was only 50 cents.
This is one.
Do you even know how to say it?
I do.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Borborigamos. Borborigamos.
Yeah, Borborigamos.
Yeah, Borborigamos.
Bora Bora. All right, this is Robert Baratheon.
This one I saw and I was like, you dug way deeper than I thought you were going to.
This is absolutely young Robert Baratheon.
Yeah.
This is young Robert. Right. 3 colorless, Gruul, so it's 2 red, 2 green. Legendary creature Cyclops, 6/7. Big Tuck, why don't you read what it does?
Trample whatever Borborigamos deals combat damage to a player. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. And I think so. Okay, it's been a while, but I think he's like, it's easy to see why these Gruul dirtbags follow him. The only orders he gives are crush them and we eat. Taste Karlov. Oh, all right.
Yeah, I would think it'd be like a. It's easy to see why the Gruul dirtbags follow him. Only order he gives is crush them and we eat.
Well, and then we're both wrong because it's actually from Teysa, so it'd be like Queen Cersei talking about it. And even the best of the best.
Borborigamos.
So, weird card, doesn't see a whole lot of play for obvious reasons, but I think it works for a lot of reasons, right? Like he was a strong ass fighter, right? So the 6/7 works. I think you hit on a good point earlier about Renly, where it seems like the Baratheons really do a good job of inspiring the people underneath them, right? Whether it's who's the guy who bangs the Lady of Light? Robert. Stannis.
No, there's Robert, there's Renly, Stannis.
Yeah. So like Stannis, people follow him like fanatically to the ends of the earth, literally when he goes up to the wall, right? Renly, people follow him because he thinks he's a fair dictator. And if Robert Baratheon, if his own stories are anything, it sounded like he was like the warrior to beat on the battlefield with a hammer, which is funny because Morgrimos has a giant hammer in here too. So again, I think this is one where it's like there's probably a better card out there, but I think with the raw essence of Robert Baratheon, it's very well captured in this card.
Honestly, like I'd be shocked to see a better card out there to do Robert, because if we think about Robert in his prime, he was, like you said, an amazing competitor on the battlefield. He carried a hammer, so it fits that. But he was one of those leaders that led through example. Right. And it's not even just being there. Like, this card has to deal combat damage to even do a anthem effect on his creatures with counters. And so I think that's why this card fits well, because I highly doubt Robert ever hung at the wall and made commands when he was fighting the Targaryens. No. He was in there in the front lines, and someone probably saw him smash some dude's head, and they're like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can win this. Yeah, 100%. All
right,
Tuck. Well, what is your second yeast card?
So this is a banger card that's still $14 from years ago, and it works in a lot of different ways in this, but it is a traitor, just like the bastard who it's named after. But I'm talking about Kalidas, Traitor of Get, or Walder Frey. This old conjure.
Come on, this is perfect.
It's really good. So Kalidas Traitor Get is 2 colorless, black for a 3/4 legendary creature, vampire warrior. It is a mythic coming in at about $14. Lifelink. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile that card and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token on the battlefield. 2 colors and black, sack another vampire or zombie, put 2 1/1 counters on Kalidas Traitor of Get. So the way I want to talk about this card is eliminate the zombie vampire bit, right? Just take that out of there. Like let's look at the raw bits of it, right? So Frey is only here for himself. So he doesn't care if something dies about their legacy or anything, right? He's not an honorable man in that sense of the world. So that explains the first bit, and then he's completely not above sacrificing his own people or his own land or his own allies just to slightly better himself towards the winning team, right? And similar scope of here, like he didn't care that he was going against the rules and killing like the head of the Stark family, right? He didn't care about the Stark legacy and what that meant to him. And also he like just would run his people against the other army and be like, whatever. Like I can make more of them with my 15 wives. So yeah, just like it's really good. And then the one thing I will mention that I wish. Do you know what Frey pies were? So this is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was his sons.
No. It was in the book. They cut this from the show or whatever. But people started getting these things called Frey pies that were after. Arya killed them, and then people took over whatever that castle is. They chopped their bodies up into meat and baked them into meat pies and would send them out to people. So they called them Frey pies.
So they actually knew that there was human meat in there, and they sent it out.
Yeah, they intentionally did that to like prove a point.
Wow,
yeah, it's awesome.
Wow, that's crazy.
It is a redacted bit. Totally metal, man. Wow.
So, and the kind of other interesting thing with it is I did make House Frey Orzhov. So I did double check that. I didn't make Lannisters Orzhov. They might have been Boros. So House Frey was Scrubland. So, it's the white and the black, but he only gets the black because I feel like House Frey, they're not all like terrible people. It's not like Lannister, where you look at almost all the Lannisters are just trash.
Yeah, right. They're all just
or you
people.
Look at Stark, everyone is like honorable, except maybe an exception. Frey is one of those where it was really just like one, or I'll say some bad apples. Like his sons weren't that great, but then everyone else was just kind of like low end common folk.
Right. Yeah.
And so Frey, being the leader of House Frey, he did not get the white in his CMC because he had no redeeming qualities.
No. Yeah. He was just a miserable old codger.
All right. So my second one is the one that I think it works, for what the card is trying to do. It's a 4-color commander. It's the one I refuse to make because it doesn't interest me as a commander. But Saskia the Unyielding or Jon Snow the Queenslayer. So Saskia is all the colors but blue. Legendary creature, human soldier. It's a 3/4. It has vigilance. It has haste. Whenever it enters a battlefield, choose a player. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. We obviously know that Jon Snow was a massive war commander, from small battalion or small groups to large armies. And he never really backs down after attacking, which is, I think, where the vigilance comes in. The haste, he's willing to run into the fire. Right. He doesn't think that much. But I do like the choose a player whenever that player receives damage by one of your creatures to any players, it deals that much to that player. And you can look at that on a few micro levels within Jon Snow. You can look at it as whenever he thinks he's doing the best thing for the people around him, he ends up hurting them. Yep. The one person he's trying not to hurt. You could also look at it that way from a tactical perspective. Hey, I believe attacking these things are going to be better, but then he ends up hurting, think of Sansa because he didn't take her advice with the Battle of the Bastards. Right. I'm going to swing in, but he ends up actually hurting his own sister. So it has some loose things there. And actually, I would agree this probably is a better card for Jon Snow. But I wanted something that was tactical, that was a leader. Yeah. Plus, from just a magic perspective, since I'm living in the red zone, I need ways to be able to maybe take out a player I can't deal with. And
the last thing I'll say on that with the bit is Jon Snow also, he kind of can get very singularly focused, right? Where he's like, the Boltons have wronged me, I'm going to take out the Boltons. The Lannisters have wronged me, I'm going to take out the Boltons. So it makes sense where he's like, okay, I'm targeting you, and then I'm only dealing damage to you. Right? Where it's like, you're the Boltons, so I don't care about anyone else, right? There could be 6 other people here, but I'm only attacking you, and I'm dealing double damage to you, and that's all that matters. Right?
Makes sense. All right, Tuck, what is your last?
You had a lot of options for this one, a lot of them, and I think you did a good job. I think you chose wisely. So the one, because there's so many different ways you go through it. So I'm going to talk about the card that ended up being the Night King, right?
Oh, gotcha.
And you chose the Scarab God for it. So the Scarab God is 3 colorless and Dimir, that's blue-black for mythic 5/5 legendary creature god, coming in about $13. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life and you scry X, or X is the amount of zombies you control. 2 colorless, and then Dimir, exile target creature from a graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. When the Scarab God dies, return it to his owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So obviously the Night King is the big bad of the whole series. Unstoppable, raises the dead, right? And he, the way that he wins is just with this mound of armies that he's brought up by himself. So it all checks out there. The only thing, so I'm on board with it, right? And again, that's just from a thematic. That's a thematic expense. That's from a thematic side of things. From a mechanic side of thing, this is just another copy of Kenrith's last ability, but slightly more efficient. You don't run a ton of zombies, so you're not going to see the first that often. But I do. So I can understand where you're going with this. I would say that and there's a gazillion different options you could choose for this. Like I said, there's a part of me that says if Kalidas just said zombie of Get, I think the Night King might fit good with him too, because it's kind of accomplishing the same idea, right?
Okay.
But again, considering that you had to choose the biggest bad of the series, right? And then find a card that exemplifies him in a deck that's not zombie driven in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that he reanimates dragons, giants, the whole 9 yards, it doesn't matter what he's reanimating, he's pulling it out,
Yeah, and the other reason I picked the Scarab God is, in theory, he can't die.
Yeah, yes,
There's one way
right.
to kill him, and that's exiling him or getting the dragon glass through the heart.
Yep.
So that was the other thing I kind of liked about Scarab God, is he does deal with zombies. He does steal creatures from the dead, brings them back to life as zombies in his army. And you think about it, the more White Walkers or zombies the Scarab God has, the quicker your opponents are going to die. And then, hey, I'm going to murder, I'm going to board wipe, we're going to reset you. Well, he's just going to come back to my hand at the end step, and I'll just cast the Night King again. You can't stop me.
Yeah, totally there on that, totally tracking.
So it's kind of funny that you picked the Night King and Scarab God, because my last one is his pet that he likes to fly around on. So I'm talking about T-Neb the Harvester, or Viserion. So T-Neb the Harvester is 3 colorless, black, green, white, or Abzan. And the reason I picked that color combination is I want to say Viserion had, I believe that's the one that was kind of green and white, correct?
Yeah, I don't know. There's like a black one and then 2 other ones, so I can't.
Yeah, there's black and red. Yeah. That's Drogon, Viserion, and the other one. I'm trying to remember what the other one. No, I think, I don't know. Anyways, I was trying to pick them based on their colors, but T-Neb the Harvester, a legendary creature dragon. It's a 6/6. It has flying, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 colorless black. If you do, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. I basically just kind of look at this as the Night King is always riding on Viserion. So as Viserion is dealing damage, he's rising things back up from the grave, similar to how you kind of talked about with Scarab God. Yeah, I like the card a lot. I've actually, when I've played this deck, T-Neb the Harvester has done the most work for me and made people the most scared. Like, we got to put Mr. Combo under wraps because he's reanimating a lot of stuff. This is like almost like a secret reanimation deck.
Yeah, I totally. And like we saw that when I saw you play this last, when you got milled a bunch, then you cast your commander, and it was just like it turned into a toolbox deck out of nowhere.
Yep. All right, well, that's going to wrap up the yeast package. Now we're going to head over to the spice. There were some spice in here because maybe they don't fit the deck, but I feel like a lot of them do fit the characters. Tuck, why don't you start us off? What is the card and magic character you're talking about?
So this is my second favorite character. My favorite little ginger man. Well, he's not ginger. He's humongous. Well, he is a ginger, but he's not little. But he and the Hound have some of the best banter in the entire series. So I'm talking about...
Yes, they do.
Wait, are we doing this?
Nope.
Okay. So I'm talking about Tormund Giantsbane or Ruhan of the Fomori. Ruhan of the Fomori, which is ironic that you say this because his name's Giant Bane. Ruhan of the Fomori is a 7/7 legendary creature, giant warrior. Color and Jeskai, that's red, white, blue. He's a mythic rare, about $5. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose an opponent at random. Ruhan the Fomori attacks that player this combat if able. Unfettered by allegiance, driven by war. So...
Wait, and Tuck? Is the tall lady there?
Yeah, exactly. She looks like she's about to eat your guts for liver. So you do know her. Well, you're together? Well, not now. So good. So this makes sense in a lot of things. Tormund is like a strong-ass warrior, right? But he's also seems like he's kind of reckless because wildlings sort of are, right? They kind of just attack.
Yep.
Right. It's not like they're not very good. They do have some tactics in the sense where they do like in and out, blast, hit, come back, that sort of stuff. But when they're attacking, you just see him going, just walking straight forward in a line, just hacking and slashing through. And in similar scope, Ruhan doesn't care who's he's attacking. He just knows that they have to die. Right? Doesn't matter the opponent, doesn't matter doesn't matter anything. It's just that this is someone who means me ill. I'm going to kill them.
Yeah, the only card that I could consider replacing for him would be the same one where it's attacks at random, but he gets indestructible while he's attacking.
Oh, Zurgo?
Zurgo, giant, yeah. So I think Zurgo could be a fair replacement here, but I like Ruhan. I've never played with it before. I've never even cast it in the deck. But I do like 7/7 at random at someone's pretty dumb. And, I would guess a lot of people aren't going to take it because he doesn't have evasion of any kind.
Yes.
So I'm going to be taking out 2/2s, 3/3s, 4/4s pretty frequently.
Yep. Totally on you there.
All right, so I went with one of my favorite hated characters. It's weird. I like him and I hate him. We're talking about Jor Kadeen, the Prevailer, or Tywin Lannister. So Jor Kadeen, the Prevailer, is 3 colorless Boros. That's red and blue. Legendary creature, human warrior. It's 5/4. First strike, and it has Metalcraft. Creatures you control get +3/+0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. As long as my hand holds a blade, there's hope for your pure Mirrodin once again.
Or pure Westeros.
I swear you've been working on those accents.
There you go. I'm not. I don't even think I did his right. But I think as we talked about with the Baratheons and kind of a little bit with Joffrey, kings and rulers and generals and armies, when the little people see them at the front and fighting, they really rally. That's why Joffrey only gets +1/+1, because it's just like he's not really fighting. Ramsay inspires a little bit, and so it's like +2/+2. Jor Kadeen or Tywin incites so much, I would say, military exemplance that when he's out there and he fights on his sword and he gets covered in blood, his soldiers fight harder.
Right.
Or at least they fight because they don't want to get killed by him. So that +3/+0 with the 3 or more artifacts, that's pretty huge. And I would even swing with Tywin or Jor Kadeen with Metalcraft because it's like first strike and it's an 8/4. I'll do that all day long.
Right. And it works too because I like how it's like as long as my hand holds a blade, so he even tries to fight after he gets his right hand cut off, his master hand, right?
Yeah.
And no one covets artifact.
Wait, what are you talking about? I'm talking about Tywin. You're talking about Jaime.
Oh, did I get those screwed up? Who's Jaime in this?
Jaime's his son.
No.
He's the one that gets his hand
What
cut
card
off.
is he?
He is.
I can look. Hold on.
Real quick.
So Tajic Blade of
I don't
Legion.
know shit.
Yeah. Never mind. Okay, so.
Oh yeah, he's Tajic.
But anyway, which is awesome too. But I think so. Okay, this even makes more sense, right? How he is the leader. But then where I was getting at was like the Lannisters more than anyone else covet artifacts. In this case, crossbows, Valyrian steel, gold, the scorpions as they call them, that sort of stuff. So even that kind of tracks a little bit. I mean, outside of your talismans, you don't have that many artifacts. So I would wager to guess from a mechanics perspective. I mean, you have like your whole suit of ramp.
I mean, I have 10 artifacts in the deck.
Yeah, that's decent, especially because they're all mana ramps, so you're gonna hold on to them.
Yeah.
But so even now that I'm thinking it's Tywin, it works even better. So yeah, it's a good one.
Cool. That's going to wrap up the spice package. Now we're going to head over to the bottle capping. And as a reminder, it's going to be big text and ice cuts and adds to the deck that are going to be under $5, under $50, and a no budget recommendation. We just can't talk about mana only lands, and every card has to correlate with a Game of Thrones character.
Oh, we're doing it.
We'll start with my under $5, and the first card I'm going to cut is one of the biggest stretches I have in the deck, but I do have loose interpretations on how it works for the character. So I'm going to cut Kogla the Titan Ape, which is also Lord Eddard Stark. So Kogla the Titan Ape is 3 colorless, green, legendary creature ape, and it has 3 effects. Oh, and it's a 7/6. When it ETBs, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. I feel like that was very Eddard Stark. Like, we only got to see him for like 5 or 6 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes where he was under his own free will. And he just seemed to always want to fight people. Like, he shows up, someone gives him a little bit of attitude, and he's like, "Oh, you don't want to go? You sure, Littlefinger?" Like, damn, calm down. Okay. When Kogla attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. Once again, really angry. Every time he's going in attacking, he's blowing up shit. He just is very destructive. And then a colorless green, and I did like this for the synergy of the deck.
Right.
Return target human you control to its owner's hand. Kogla gains indestructible till end of turn. So that's almost like Eddard saying, like, Catelyn, get behind me. Like, I'm hiding you, I'm returning you to the castle, and then I'm going to take them on and I'll win the battle. So it does loosely fit Eddard a little bit, but I think I got a better card. And it just came out of Commander Legends. Jared Carthalion True Heir.
Jared, the man.
This is one of my cuts. This is what I'm putting in for a different one.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, before I talk about the car, go ahead. What are you cutting for this for under $5?
So I was actually going to cut Radha. Well, it's under $5. All my stuff except for one is under $5. So,
well, you know what? For YouTube editing, we're making it simple. You bastard.
Easy enough. I'll move it right around. So I'm actually going to cut Radha, heir to the throne, for this. So for several reasons. One is that A, Radha sucks and it's not a good card, and B, I like Gendry because under the Baratheon rule, if you will, of the kingdom, he was the true heir to that throne. Right now,
so let's read off what Jared actually does. So this is red, green, and white. Legendary creature, human warrior, and it's a 3/3. When Jared Carthalion True Heir enters the battlefield, target opponent becomes the monarch. He can't become the monarch this turn. If damage would be dealt to Jared while you're the monarch, prevent that damage and put that many +1/+1 counters on it. And Tuck, your best Gendry voice, what's that flavor text?
Put a ring on it, I think. Just put a ring on it.
I'm here for what's mine.
Oh,
it's like Christian Bale, kind of, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I actually always thought he kind of looked like Christian Bale.
Dude, for sure. Especially when he had the short hair. Yeah.
So here, let me tell you why I picked Eddard for this, and then you can kind of explain why you picked Gendry for it. So the reason I chose Eddard for this is when Eddard kind of shows up, he makes like other people seem to become the king or queen when he's around. He's never the one that actually is on the side of the crown.
Even though he's king of the north, right?
Correct. Yeah, well, no, he is the ward of the north.
Right.
He is never king of the north.
Yes.
So when he's there and swinging and battling, his side is not king or queen. But if you think about it, when Robert is at full strength, when they're probably battling in early on in Westeros lore, when Eddard has full support of Robert, Eddard's kind of untouchable. Like, you screw with the Starks in the north, you're gonna get King's Landing coming at you.
Yeah.
And that's where I liked it, to where when he doesn't have the crown on his side, he's susceptible to being killed, removal. But when the crown's on his side, he's very difficult to get rid of. So that was kind of my thought around Jared and Eddard.
Well, and so I was also kind of torn because I think Jared also kind of works as Jon Snow a little bit, right? And kind of the same thing. But I liked him for Gendry because Gendry never knew that he was royalty, right? But he was still a fighter. He was still he still believes in government, or whatever you want to call it, right? Like, he believes in the things. But
he believed in democracy.
Right, yeah. But then once he realizes that he is this royal bloodline, he becomes stronger. He allies himself with stronger people and becomes like a force of combat in and of himself, right? So kind of going into the idea of he is the true heir, but he doesn't know it until he doesn't know it out the gates, right? Which is why someone else would be the monarch.
Huh. All right. Yeah. I see both sides have their merits. Both sides have their merits.
It was hard. Well, like, it's such a flavorful card. It's such a great kings and queens card. You could sub. I mean, there's probably even more that you could sub out for this, right? If you want to get down to it.
Yeah. All right. For my under 50, I'm actually going to cut Deadeye Tracker, which is Theon Greyjoy.
Okay.
And I more picked Deadeye Tracker because it was a pirate.
Yep.
And it was really hard to pick a card for Theon. Like,
he has such a crazy
he doesn't fit anything. Yeah. And so this was the best I could come up with, but with Commander Legends, I got something better. Creature human pirate for a single black mana, and it's a 1/1. You can pay a colorless black, tap, exile 2 target cards from an opponent's graveyard, Deadeye Tracker explores. So you reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and then put the card back on top. So it's kind of a worthless card, which is kind of like Theon up until like the last episode that he was in.
Deadeye Tracker, also well known for not having a penis.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'm making all these like weird penis correlations. I'm just making just a bit.
All these weird
And he's
penis
a 1/1.
correlations. There it is. Big
so
time for
he's
you,
weak
everybody.
as hell because I don't think Theon was ever known as a warrior at any point in the series. And so that's more or less why I did it. But I got a card. Tuck's going to hate it.
Boy.
Thank God I own a copy because I wouldn't want to pay for it. But it's a pirate. And I think it actually fits Theon a little bit.
Is it Hole Breacher?
Little bit. It's a little sweaty.
Is it Hole Breacher?
It's Hole
Oh
Breacher.
my god.
So 2 colorless blue, creature merfolk pirate. It has flash and it's a 3/2. If an opponent would draw a card except for the first one they draw in each of their draw step, instead you create a treasure token. It's an artifact with tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. I don't need a map. Dang it. I feel like Jon Snow is everyone in Game of Thrones, to be honest.
Anyways,
I don't need a map to find riches.
I don't need a map to find riches. That's bad too. Ugh.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to trade this out for Theon, for the Theon card, is it still fits the pirate, so it still fits that theme at least. But one of the things I have noticed from a mechanics deck perspective is that it is very mana hungry.
Yeah.
And since I don't run fetches to be able to
smooth out your
deck
mana curve,
to get what I need out, I need ways to generate something. And I kind of actually thought about it this way. I feel like Hole Breacher is when he was Reek and then eventually became Theon again. Like it kind of came out of nowhere. Like he was so broken and so defeated, and then boom, a flash. Theon is there rescuing Sansa,
leading the pirate cruise with his sister again, that sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly. Like he actually became something worthwhile. Is this the most powerful card in the deck? No. Was he the most powerful character in Game of Thrones? No.
Yeah.
But are they both good? And did they eventually fit a game plan?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a way better fit than Deadeye Tracker, even though I am rolling my eyes over this, but fair enough. He is a pirate.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you would have rolled your eyes more if I would have picked Opposition Agent. Let's be honest.
Yes, I would have quit.
Which is actually funny. I actually thought about putting Opposition Agent in for the flippin' little girl. I'm just drawing a blank on her name.
Arya?
The youngest of the start. Yeah, Arya.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, Tuck, what are you cutting? And what are you going to add for under 50 bucks?
So my Radha is like my slimy pick. My under 100 is my slam dunk greasy pick. This one is the sweatiest by far. And it's insanity, and I already know you're not going to like it, but whatever. So I'm actually going to cut Kalia the Vast, aka Daenerys.
Yeah.
So I get it. It works very well from a thematic perspective. It does not work from a deck perspective. So
what do you mean? There's three
whole dragons in the deck. Colorless and Mardu, that's red, white, black. She's a legendary creature, human cleric, mythic, for about $12. 2/2 flyer. Whenever Kalia the Vast attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon, or dragon creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking that opponent. I'll have my revenge if I have to call on every force from above and below. Whatever. Okay. Whatever. I get it. It makes sense from a mechanics. It makes sense from a thematic. Not a good card for this deck. So I am going the complete. So this is like this one location we have here. I'm going the complete opposite of where we're going. All right. Okay. I'm breaking the human parody. I'm breaking the human parody. Daenerys should be Dragon Broodmother 2 colorless,
What?
3 red, and a green for a creature dragon flying. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 red and green dragon creature token with the flying of power 2. As this token enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures and enters the battlefield with twice that many +1/+1 counters on it. It's a 4/4. So
Maybe
it was
got
like
a foily copy for you.
it was a
Fresh
toss
in the
up.
binder.
It was a toss-up between this and Nesting Dragon because it lays the dragon's eggs. But it just fits from the name. It fits sort of from the mechanics. It's just something that's not Kalia. And I know it's insanity because we're replacing the mother dragons with an actual dragon. But this is just what immediately came to mind as soon as I read that Kalia was Daenerys. I was like, let's put this one in on it.
Look, I don't like it.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
I'm not going to do it.
I know. I'm sure.
But it would be, I think if I had more token generation in the deck, I would consider this for one of the other dragons.
Sure.
Even though that wouldn't even fit or make sense, but I would still do it because then at least the Devour 2 is something relevant. Yeah, and I get it. Kalia flipping.
There's got to be a better. There has to be. You agree with me? There has to be a better card for Daenerys and Kalia, right? There has to be. And this is just the one that was like a snap, like windmill slam out of my brain.
Yep, literally like, hey, what does Daenerys do? Like, get dragons out. Cool. What card does that? Kalia.
Game over.
I mean, hell, even if the other Kalia did something like the ETB, look at the cards. Yeah. If it even allowed me to do humans, I would have done that over the cheaty one out. But
the other one I kind of thought was Dragon Master Dragon Outcast. Yeah, whatever that one is that generates it. But it was like, that's too sweaty. It's not sweaty enough.
Yeah. All right. We're on to no budget. And I'm not breaking the budget.
Yeah, me neither.
But I do have a cool flavor one.
Okay.
So I'm going to cut Dagatar, the Adamant, which is
not the Weatherlight Report Commander Dagatar. Oh.
Yeah, afraid so.
Hurting me.
Yeah, it just, I don't really have +1/+1 counter synergy in here. I mean, my commander can do it, but I don't really know if I'm going to spend 5 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on something
and then just move it. Yeah.
Yeah, when I could just pay 2 mana to just put a new one on.
Fair. Okay. Fair.
So that's my thing. So Dagatar the Adamant, it's 3 colorless white, legendary creature, human warrior. It's vigilance. When it ETBs, it comes in with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Colorless Golgari, move a +1/+1 counter from target creature onto a second target creature, and it comes in as a 0/0. Our victories will protect 1,000 generations.
Pretty good.
Oh, thank you. So the reason I picked this for Sansa initially is the card doesn't do anything on its own. And that's basically Sansa. Sansa, when she is just by herself, she's a strong, independent woman. She's a leader. She could take abuse like nobody's business. But she actually didn't get any type of power until she had an army.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm tracking.
Even when she was in the army, the only thing she did was manipulate the board. She wasn't necessarily a tactician or anything like that. So Dagatar coming in, it's like, hey, I got these counters, which is Sansa, and it's like, oh, I'm going to now spread out resources to the people that I'm trying to manipulate.
I'm tracking with you. I'm tracking.
So what I thought would be better, though, because the thing that Sansa actually did very, very well in the entire show was get allies, find allies. Captain Sisay would do this way better.
Okay, yeah.
So 2 colorless Silencia, so green and white. Oh, and I didn't say the other reason I picked Dagatar is it's Abzan. So you get the black and the green from the Stark side, but then you get the white.
From her time in King's Landing?
Yeah, a little bit. So this one, is going to be a little greasier from a color perspective, but I think the color thing's already greasy. Yeah. It's like she's part Stark, part King's Landing. But anyway, she's a creature legend 2/2, which I actually like more than Dagatar being a 0/0 with 4 +1/+1 counters, because Sansa's not a fighter. tap it, search your library for a legend or legendary card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And then I guess if I was talking, I would talk like Jon. Her leadership forged the Weatherlight's finest crew.
It's pretty good.
So Sansa, her development is once she became not the bratty little kid, was, writing secret letters to Peter Baelish, creating secret alliances. Let me bring in the right asset when I need it. And that's basically the way Captain Sisay works. Technically, Sisay Weatherlight Captain would probably be better for this deck than Captain Sisay. But the reason I didn't want to pick that one,
it's too strong,
is because, well, I already have a Weatherlight Sisay deck. But the biggest thing is that Sisay gets bigger as she gets more allies. Sansa never gets
that's what I meant. Like she
gets more allies.
That other Sisay gets physically stronger. And I think that works too, because similar in scope to Jaime Lannister, because she's a kid of a royal family, people kind of gravitate to her, right? So like throughout her run on the show or in the books or whatever, the Hound, Baelish, Ned Stark, several Lannister children.
God,
right?
I hope Ned Stark would gravitate to his daughter.
She can easily be the focal point of all these other big names around her, just because of who she is, right? And then later, again, to your point, I think she learns how to weaponize that. Like, I am a Stark, I am from the North, and now I can pull in either more people from around me to succeed, right?
A great way to phrase it in a Magic perspective: Sansa evolves into a toolbox character.
Yes. Yep. Totally.
She is very much, what do I need for the situation, and we will get that to happen. So, all right, man, round us out. What is your last cut? And
you've done, like I said, you did a really good job, but there was one that you completely shit the bed on. 100%.
Whoa.
No questions asked. So you did her dirty. Our fair lady, the big gal, Bran of Tarth, as Jareth Lyannon Titan? Question mark?
Yeah.
3 triple white legendary creature cat giant 4/7. Whenever Jareth blocks, it gets +7/+7 until end of turn. White gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Lights champion in the stronghold of darkness. I guess.
No, so you say why you want to cut the card, and I will just tell you why I picked this for Brienne of Tarth, because I actually have
because there is a 100% slam dunk card that you wouldn't even need to get altered, and it would have worked perfectly. Go ahead.
So the reason I picked this for Brienne is, if you watch the series, she is never once the attacker.
Okay.
Like, ever. She's always the defender. If she attacks, it's a little offhand, and that's why I like Jared, because it's a 4/7 when Jared's attacking, or Jareth. But when it's blocking, then that's when it becomes an 11/14, and that's where I think Brienne of Tarth really came in the clutch, when she was defending people or defending Arya or Sansa. That's really when she became a beast and really kind of dominated. Plus, there always felt like there was this cloak over her of protection. Like, I was never worried that Brienne of Tarth was going to die. Mm-hmm. And that's where the color of just the white gains protection from the color of your choice in end of turn kind of fits in as well. But the biggest thing is the blocking, and it gets bigger and beefier to kind of do it. And she ends the series as the head of the Kingsguard, blocking for Bran the Broken.
Okay, or what you could do is the immediate slam dunk that anyone would have put in here. Adriana, Captain of the Guard, 3 colorless and Boros for a 4/4 legendary creature, human knight with melee. Whenever it attacks, it gets +1/+1 for each opponent you attack this combat. Other creatures you control have melee. Same deal. It's perfect. It follows her, and also, more importantly, the artwork is based on that character. It's slam dunk.
Is it based on that character? Has that come out and said?
I'm pretty sure if you look at the artwork, it's her. It's Brienne of Tarth. So she also comes to a point of also inspiring other people later in the thing, just like in Melee, and becomes Captain of the Guard, Captain of the Gold Cloaks, or whatever. This was the one that I was just I knew from the second that we talked about this deck and you told me what this was, I was like, I don't even have to think. I get it from your perspective, but this is Brienne of Tarth in a Game of Thrones deck. Stand by it.
So look, I actually like the card a lot.
Yeah.
I would like to find a spot for it because I think this card actually belongs in here.
Yes,
hardcore.
yeah, for sure.
But if I had my say, I would probably cut either the card I use for Tywin Lannister or Jaime Lannister for it. Because that seems more... Because Brienne never inspired people, like a big group. Like, never once. Not throughout the whole series. The most people she ever inspired were just close confidants to her. She was never one that people rallied behind.
Maybe that's all you need.
Rallied behind. So, yeah, that's why I don't like that for her. But I do think there's probably a lot better card, or there's somewhere in the deck I could put Adriana, Captain of the Guard, in for.
Like, you could just take out, actually what you could do is you could just take out Cherith, Leon, and Titan, and then just put this right in and not have to worry about it. So I'm just giving you options.
Well, you know what? We're at the end of the episode because I can't deal with this anymore. But guys, we do have a message from our sponsors. All right. Think you don't have a future? Parents aren't living in the... Oh, damn it. Let me redo that. All right. Think you don't have a future? Parents are living in the slums. Maybe you don't have the coin for a beginning education. Head north and join the Night's Watch. Protect your family and friends as part of a brotherhood, always prepared for the long night. Just take the King's Road straight north and be sure to watch out for wildling raiding parties. Healthcare and other benefits don't apply until you take your oath. So, thank you so much, sponsor the Night's Watch. You guys should definitely go check them out if you have no future.
I can see in your face how proud you are of yourself for this whole thing. It's just like when we play the deck. I'm someone who am proud of himself more often than I should be. I can just see it in your face.
Thank you. I'm glad you can see the proud pop face. So hey guys, leave a 5-star review, subscribe to our channel, whatever consumption platform you're watching this on in the netherworld, because this is clearly an alternate timeline. We'd really, really appreciate it. But if you would like to get a hold of us, if we even still exist, here's how you would do that. You can reach me at Mr. Commodore 5 on Twitter, all spelled out except for the 5. Big Tuck, where can they reach you, or as some would call you, the Hound?
The Hound. You can find me still. I kind of took a hiatus back in the day because it was kind of a nightmare on the Twitter. I guess a little bit more of a nightmare than it was, but I'm still there at Big Tuck tweeting.
And you can reach our main account at CMD Tower on Twitter as well. We will have the deck list posted, like we talked about at the beginning of the cast, cmdtower.com/BNBL1 for lost episode if you didn't get that. Basically, all you got to type in is mountain, the nearest tower.com. Squee McGee, if people want to get a hold of you, if you even are still alive, how would they do that?
Well, you can find me pre and or post-apocalyptic Squee. I'm not sure which one you want to go with. Depends where we're at in this time continuum that we're all in here. That's Dear Squee at cmdtower.com. It's email. Screw it. I'm not even going to give you the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter. They may all be shut down.
Yeah, exactly. They won't exist.
But I know for a fact, CMD Tower survived the apocalypse.
Facts.
I was about to say, are you on that Donald Trump getting banned from everything?
That's my goal for 2022.
Yeah, I would say not yet, but
banned from the internet.
2022. What year do you think we're in?
Could be 2020. It was my goal for 2022. How about that?
Yeah. I would say you're misguided there, sir. This could be 2027. Could be 2001. Who knows?
Well, if you guys would like to support us financially, you could head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have reward tiers from just $1 a month that gives you access to the Discord and deck therapy and anything else we've added in however long it takes to add this thing, all the way up to $25 where we got playmats, sleeves, tokens, coins, everything that you need from a tabletop experience that you'll get. Plus, you really help us out so we can upgrade our equipment. If you guys can't help out from a consistent monthly perspective, but you would like to still pick up some of that swag, just head to cmdtower.com/merch. We sell everything on there. Slowly but surely, my basement will be free. So Big Tuck, that's the end of the episode. Playing the Game of Thrones, Lost episode number 1. How do you feel about the Lost episode, A? And B, how do you feel about doing a meme deck and the cuts and ads and
A,
talks?
10 out of 10. Great episode. A lot of good bits, and you guys know how big a fan I am. And B, it is fun. You know, it's interesting. It's fun to think when you're going through this of not just picking cards. There's a lot of cards in here that we wouldn't talk about normally because they're just not seen played. And then it's also fun to think about, you know, as a Game of Thrones fan and not like the stan for the show that you are, it is still fun for me to think through, like, okay, how would this work? You know, what's the correlation? How far can we stretch this? How sweaty is it versus anything? So I think it's like, it's a perfect episode just to like have ready to go whenever we need to.
Awesome. Yeah, I completely agree. I think this was an absolute blast. I would say I can't wait for our next Lost episode, but who knows? Maybe we've already recorded it due to the time.
I would say it could have been about 6 or 8 years ago.
We already know what it is.
But I do enjoy this because this gives us a platform to kind of talk about our meme decks that makes sense instead of trying to like fudge it in like we somewhat did for Petitioners a year or so ago or whenever that was, like for Tribal Month. Like, yes, technically it was
pretty
tribal,
sure that was
really,
like 3 years in advance. I think you don't know where you're at in this time continuum.
Okay.
It's weird.
Yeah, exactly.
So I find that kind of hilarious, and that's why I like this platform. Plus, interestingly enough, they think this deck's 77% competitive, which we should have talked about in the beginning. Makes no sense at all. Tapped out, you're on drugs.
It's only because you have dual lands in it. That's the only reason why.
Yeah. Dual lands and that Deadeye
What
Tracker.
if that's how they're algorithm?
Yeah, exactly. That's what put it over the 50%.
You put a dual land in, you go immediately to 50%, and then any other cards just tack on top of that.
So the one thing I'll be interested in, though, is that in doing this, and I know you're in deck reduction mode, if you will make a meme deck as well.